Good morning and welcome to our Excel class. My name is Chimaroke from Go Getter Excel, and today we'll be looking at lookup functions. We'll be taking one of the lookup functions of interest, which is the VLOOKUP function. First of all, what is a lookup? Sometimes you want to look up a word in the dictionary, or you want to look up a phrase in the dictionary, or you could take it a step higher. You want to look up a word or phrase, I would say keywords in the internet. And so when you search for keywords, it gives you good answers that matches your keywords. So that's what we will be doing in Excel spreadsheet. We are going to be looking at some keywords and we'll be finding the matching role for those keywords. Now let's talk about VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP function is one function that is used to find keywords and returns matching rows in the appropriate columns. Okay, so there is something about VLOOKUP you must know. The keyword that you are finding in your result sheet must also be in your raw data. But the position where this keyword must be in your raw data is very important. I'll take it again. The keyword you are looking for in your result sheet must also exist in your raw data, and it must be at the leftmost part of your raw data. So it means now that if we are looking for one serial number and we're taking this raw data here, one happens to be the leftmost part of the raw data. If you're looking at Apple and you want to find it in this data, then you will exclude this serial number because your Apple is on the second column. So your second column becomes the first in your choosing selections in your raw data. So it means that anything you are looking for, you want to populate in your result sheet, the search or keyword must be in the leftmost part of your raw data. All right, so now let's see how VLOOKUP works. Now, VLOOKUP has three arguments. So let's see how it works. I'll go to this column L and cell M3, and I will now go to the formula bar. I'll start with equal to, okay, and I will say VLOOKUP. All right, I'll open a bracket. All right, so VLOOKUP has three arguments. The first argument is the lookup value. Now, this lookup value is that keyword or phrase or search word that you are looking for. So I could come here and type Apple. That is what I am looking for. Now, you see, when I type the word Apple, two things must be done. One, since Apple is not a figure, it's a string, it's a word, I must put them in quotation marks. That's number one. Number two, I must get the spelling correct, apple. And it's possible that in the raw data, there may be leading zeros or leading spaces or trailing spaces. There might be spaces at the beginning or at the end, which have not been trimmed. I must also follow that in my um, search. Otherwise, I might not get the desired results. So instead of typing the words up, I would rather want to use a cell reference. So I would rather say instead of apple, I would click on this cell that has apple. Now we have L3, L3 as our search word, right? Then I'll put a comma to shift to the next argument. The next argument is a table array. So the table array here is asking you the table in your raw data that contains both the search word at the leftmost part of the raw data and the results that you want. So you must have at least, let's say, 2 rows covered. One must be the search row, and the other must be where the result is. So, but you can have more than 1 row covered. Like in this case, I will have more than 1 row covered. So I will come here. So since this is where my apple is, this is the leftmost part of my search, I will cover the whole of this. You know, I could as well end it here. Okay, okay. Let me cover everything. All right, and I'll go comma, then my column index number. So that is the next column index number. So what is the column index number? I'm looking for quantity, and quantity is in column C. So I will not just come and write C. No, that would be wrong. But what will I do? This data that have been selected, column B is index number 1. We're looking for column index number, so it has to be number. So B, number 1. C, which is my results vector, or where I'm getting my result, is 2. So I will just simply write 2, and that solves it. And I will, okay. Now there is another argument which is optional. Once you see anything in bracket like this, it's optional. So we can, let's try it, comma. It's asking you for either a true match or an opposite match or an exact match. Okay, let's see if we can try one of them. Let's say true to give us an approximate match. We will maybe later come and use false, and we hit enter. So you see here, it gives us 2, which is the same thing we got here. But let's try dragging the formula down, and I'm having 6 and 7. So you see here, 6 and 7, but something is happening. 6 and 7. Something is happening. The line is extending. The line is extending. But if you see in the first column here, it started and ended from items here down to this line. Everything is selected. But here is going down one step. Going down one step. So I don't want my table array to shift, because if I have to drag this one down here, I will get something. Okay, let me drag again. Next part. So you see here, I'm getting wrong. But I got something right here, but you see, I was searching for 2. Started from 2, and it gives me this answer. But when I start searching here, I'm searching for 350, and it gives me an approximate match. So assuming I was to use false here, it gives me the 2, which is exact match. Okay, if I were to drag this thing down to the end here, I'm getting them all correct because I've used what they call approximate and an exact match. Okay, so let's see what will happen when I drag this formula down. I drag this formula down, and now there is a problem. This one here is giving me 200. This one is giving me 200. Okay, let me drag sideways whether this will work. It didn't work. Wow, I'm getting something fantastic. So how do we correct this problem? Okay, everything starts from when we are doing the formula. There is a need for you to know how to fix your references. So there are 3 ways we can fix our references. We can use something called relative referencing. Relative referencing is what we used all along, where the row is free, the column is free. Relative reference. So when you did not see a dollar sign in either the row or the column, this is a relative reference. Relative in the sense that when you copy the formula to the next cell, it moves and it references relatively to how the first cell that was its sample was referencing. So if something was like now, this was referencing L3. When I copied it down here, it's referencing M3. If I copy down here, it's referencing N3. That's relative. As it moves, the referencing moves. Then there's something called absolute. Absolute referencing. Absolute referencing is when you have dollar sign in both the row and the column. So when you put a dollar sign in both the row and the column, like I will do here now, look at B2 here. I'll put a dollar sign. I'll put a dollar sign here in front of B, and I'll put a dollar sign here in front of 2. That's absolute referencing. So it will never shift away from B2. If I come down here, put another dollar sign. So, but one way you can put the dollar sign in all of them instead of writing them manually is to hold your FN button and tap F4 key once. So you see here, it has done an absolute reference. So now if I were to copy these things down like this, okay, that's the problem. It is giving me NA. NA. I've done something wrong. We still correct it. Down again. Aha, I'm having a whole lot of NA. So you see, you need to know when to use the relative referencing or your absolute referencing. Now, the third type is the mixed reference. Now, the mixed reference has to do with either the row or the column being fixed. So it means that you have to fix one side and free the other side. So now, if I were to fix this column with a dollar sign, I can always highlight it. I want to fix only the column and I'll free the row. So I can come here and say FN, F4 button 1, 2, 3. Now, in this case, I have put a dollar sign on the row, which is on the column, which is L, but on the row, it's free. Let's see if this will correct the problem. Okay, so now I have something like this. It still may not correct the problem. See why I didn't correct the problem? This is because I am, we look at it again, it's still the same thing I'm referencing. The trick lies here with this column index number. So column index number here, this is 2, is fine. So here change to 3. Here should change to 3. And here should change to 4. Here should change to 5. Here should change to 6. And here should change to 7. Okay, so I think this has corrected everything. So what we'll just do now is bring the formula and everything works fine. Now you can copy this format. I'll copy just one and I want to apply the formats here. I can copy them here like this. Control Alt V will bring the paste special dialog box and I'll click on format. And what will I do? I'll paste this format here, click OK, and everything works well. So now this is the VLOOKUP. So you see here that this formula works only when this apple or these search items are at the leftmost parts of your data. So assuming I were to put something like this now, and I insert a row, okay, and I decide to do something like this. Okay, even apart from that, if I were to make this thing A instead of B, so it starts from A, okay, it's going to give me NA. So that's the problem with VLOOKUP. With VLOOKUP, that thing you are searching for must be in the leftmost part. And I see why we have to fix this part of the column, because this is where our search keywords are. So as we move from one column to the other, we want our search to be these items. So we want them fixed. So the column here is fixed. But the row is free because as we go down from apple to mango, the row has moved from apple to mango. We want the search to do the same thing. But when we go from quantity to price, cost price, we want our search to still remain L. Now, why we did this absolute referencing is that we want to search, we want our search to stay from column B2 down to, from cell B2 to cell H11. We don't want to, as we move to the next cell, we don't want to move it from items to quantity and then to blank space. We don't want, as we go down the cell, the thing shifts one cell down. We want it to stay put. So we use our dollar sign to make anything stay put, either in column or in row. If you want both column and row to stay put, use absolute referencing. If you want only the column to stay put, use the mixed referencing and put a dollar on the column. If you want the row to stay put, mixed referencing, put a dollar on the row. If you want everything flexible, you don't want anything to stay put, then use a relative reference. Don't put any dollar sign. That's it. So your VLOOKUP leftmost parts of the raw data, and you must indicate your column index number, which keeps changing. Every time you move from one column to the other, you need to change your column index number. These two things are the weaknesses of VLOOKUP, and so these give rise to something called index and match. In our next video, we will learn about the index and match. Thank you so much for joining me in this class. See you in our next class.